Can no, 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 hold.
Oh my God. You hear that? It sounds like a fucking like rave.
Holy shit, that was crazy.
Oh, she's putting me on the hard way pod.
That's right. Hey guys, I'm Jessica Mulder, and this is the Hard Way Pod, the podcast about learning from your mistakes. Today, I've got a great friend of mine, been friends for 20 years, Steven Martinez. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Wow, look at that face. He's like, that was a lot. Yeah, so we're still in quarantine pod here, and we're just going to shoot the shit over what did we decide? We decided we're going to talk about things to not take for granted. Don't take it for granted, because now we've all been trapped inside for a couple weeks, and it's really bringing up a lot of shit that is like, oh man, if only I didn't take this for granted before, it would be pretty great. So just all in all, how have you been doing with all this? Because I did see you post something yesterday about like destroying some sort of like chocolate chip bread cake thing, and you're like, this day was trash. What was that about?
Yeah, so basically, I wasn't really going to talk about my work, but that does entail with my work. I work late nights when it comes to the end of the month in the mortgage industry, so it's kind of a mad dash, and right now everybody's losing their jobs and trying to qualify for their loans before the employment stops or income verification becomes a lot more challenging, and whatever other hurdles come with this. But yeah, so ultimately working really late, been doing it for weeks now, been hunkered down, had intentions of cooking dinner and doing some other things. And by the time I ended up handling all that stuff after work, it was around 9:30 when I was putting the banana bread in the oven. And so around 10:30 when I was pulling banana bread out, I was ready for sleep, needless to say, and ended up forgetting to do a step of cutting the cake out before turning it over, and turned it over and
Did you grease the pan though?
Of course, yeah.
Oh my God, no, because like that's when I saw that picture, I was like, oh, this looks like a Jess banana bread, because like I would have forgotten to grease the pan, and then I'm like, well, this isn't coming out. We're just eating it out of the actual pan now because it's stuck.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. But I was baking it for my mother and my grandmother. I wasn't even eating their stupid thing, so it was kind of a present thing that.
And you're like, this is not the prettiest gift. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah. So your grandma is now staying with your mom, and she was in a assisted living facility, you said, right?
Yeah, she was actually in the bad one down here in Broward County that got hit with a bunch of the coronavirus cases, and they were all in closure for about 7 days when we were finally able to get her out. And then a couple days later found out that her boyfriend, who lives in the facility, just kind of like a cute little romance, he's in the hospital now with coronavirus. So
oh my God,
I'm not exactly sure where he's at with that situation, but as of right now, my grandmother's not showing any signs, my parents aren't showing any signs. So thankfully everything is looking on the up and up as of right now, but we'll see what happens. It's a scary situation all around.
Yeah, it's really scary, especially because like you can't even get any sort of regular sick right now without feeling like, oh no, do I have coronavirus? Like I just finally had my headache go away that I've had for like 2 days, and that's not to say that I haven't been drinking a ton, because I have. So I'm like, oh, it's just a hangover headache. But like those things don't last 2 fucking days, especially when yesterday I didn't drink at all. So I'm like, oh no, I know that I've read that there's, you start with a headache and then you get a sore throat. So then I'm like, if I get a sore throat, I'm going to be like, oh no, it's coronavirus. But even then I'm like, but you smoke. So it's probably just the cigarette. So it's just like this like anxiety swirl that I've got going on, because I'm already a hypochondriac, and it's just like, it's a lot for the anxiety for sure. Like no wonder I can't sleep. Like I had to like say, I have this like every other day, 8:30 a.m. meetings with work, because even though I've been remote for years, like everybody is now. So now it's kind of like keeping everybody in line and because I'm on West Coast, it's like 8:30 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm like, oh my God, not even enough time has passed to have this meeting again already, you know? And so like, as I was like, I fell asleep on the couch at 11, woke up at like 4, and then the dog's like, I need to go out. So then I take the damn dog out at 4 because I'm like, well, I don't want him waking. I don't want to have to take him when I roll out of bed to the 8:30 a.m. meeting. So I take him out. So now, of course, I'm like super awake. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I have to be up in 3 hours to do this like 2-hour meeting. So I was just like, I can't. And so I just sent a message and I was like, look, I'm not feeling too great. Not coronavirus, you know. I'm still awake right now and I haven't been able to sleep. So I'm not coming. Here's the status of all my projects. So I basically took care of that thing in 5 minutes. And I'm like, everybody should do that because we're not getting shit done sitting in these meetings for 2 hours. But oh man.
Hey, on that note, cheers, kid. I've been trying not to drink for the past couple of days as well, but oof.
Yeah. What are you drinking? You got some Basil Hayden's in there?
No, actually, that bottle's at my dad's house right now. I'm drinking some Sexton. It's an Irish whiskey. It's a single barrel malt, single barrel.
Oh.
It's delicious, little cheap bottle, not bad. It's actually a drinker's drink. If Basil Hayden drinkers would love it. So,
yeah. Well, I just know that like I remember coming to visit you in Colorado, and I was like, it was somewhere where I could bring you alcohol, and so I was like, what's your whiskey? And you were like, Basil Hayden's. Ooh, fancy. When it's got like copper and silver. Ooh la la. I don't drink whiskey anymore because shit pops off when I drink whiskey.
Shit pops off or you pop off?
I pop off. Well, it's just like you can't say anything to me like without me either being really sad or angry. Like it's just all of a sudden like I am offended by all the things, you know. Just
I've seen it.
You're like, I know. Yes. Oh man. So what have you been learning this past couple weeks about things you've taken for granted, Steve?
I wouldn't say I've taken a ton for granted. What I will say that I've been focusing on trying to stay clear-headed more than anything. I think the most things that I've taken for granted have been just the freedoms, you know, the time that we have and how we spend it. I'm kind of a loner, always have been. I do enjoy groups of friends, but I need my own time to recharge my batteries. Right. So that being said, I'm used to kind of sticking to my own, but in addition to not having the availability to go do the one thing that really brings me joy with people, which is jiu-jitsu, has been driving me pretty nuts, to say the least. You know, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask about like, you said you were doing them online or something.
Yeah, so my school thankfully is running some awesome things online, some courses where they're doing drills that you can do at home independently by yourself on the floor, on the mats. That's why I keep looking over here because it reminds me of what I'm looking at. But yeah, so over here I practice on my floor and I just lay out one of those square mats and we put on a Zoom meeting, and so he's able to look at everybody that's in the classroom at the time and see how they're doing. And it's a really cool thing that we're all able to kind of keep the community really tight, even while working from our home independently.
Right, because it's like such a like consistency thing, when you're used to like this routine of stuff, and like that's something I'm definitely experiencing too, just with having to figure out the podcast for one, because it was like every Tuesday I had my show, and every Saturday I'd go, maybe Sunday I'd go like to the studio and record the podcast. So it was like a very like good routine, which was kind of necessary for me considering like with work, I don't have that steady of a routine. Sure, I work Monday to Friday, but a lot of the time, depending on the workload and depending on deadlines, like maybe I, won't work that much one day, or I'll work at night, and then maybe I'll work on Saturday if I like don't work on Friday. So it's like, that's like so up in the air that having the structure of the show and like the booking and like keeping those like things busy that I do, it's like kind of tough, especially just thinking like, when does this come back again? I don't know. Like with the entertainment and with you, like at least it's good to do it online, but even still, it's not the same. Like a lot of people are doing online shows, and I don't have any plans to create a Tuesday night online show or mic, because I just don't think it's just not for me. Hats off to the people that are doing it, but it's like a lot of extra time and work, and just not really something that I think I'm interested in doing. But I mean, I guess we'll see, because I've had like shows before that I've ran for a while and they went away, you know, like Karma Lounge, when they closed that place, I was like, it kind of threw me off from my routine too, because that was every Tuesday. And getting back into the Hollywood Hotel, Hollywood Night Show has been great. And it's been 2 years of this now. And then it's all of a sudden like, oh, it's gone, you know? And who knows if, you know, if that place isn't even open, will it even be there when, you know, yeah. So it's really kind of tough and stressful. Like that community that me and Landon were building for so long, it's like, well, it's kind of gone now. And although I'm like hopeful that we could just pick back up where we left off, it's like, now it's pushed to May, you know, and now it's like, will that even be smart still to just like go right back into it, depending on how bad it is? Like they're talking about like hundreds of thousands of people dying from this. And even if they start like letting us feed back into society in a month, like that doesn't mean it's not dangerous to be doing open mics with microphones and people touching it and hoping they wash their hands, you know, like I'm like, is everybody gonna bring their own fucking microphone or what? Like this is, you know, I shake everybody's hand when they come up, you know, I touch this mic, like people touch their mouth to it, like that's like a cesspool for disease, you know.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the jiu-jitsu world, I totally understand and can relate. You know, we hug and we touch and we sweat on each other, and we're all intertwined with each other all the time. So, and it's always a different person, whoever's there in the class. You just, you know, eyes click and you're like, hey, you want to drill today? All right. And you end up doing it. But then at the end of the class, you're rolling with everybody, and it's whoever gets put together from the professor. So it is one of those things where you don't really get to, and not only that, everybody, we're already so much of a family and tight unity that when we see each other, we hug each other. So it's just a natural thing to embrace. And I don't think I'm going to stop doing that. I'm definitely not going to stop hugging your ass when I see you.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But who knows when that's going to be even. Cause it's like, who's getting on a plane right now? Yeah. It's like, yeah, Travis's sister and her boyfriend were supposed to come, and like, we've been nagging them to come visit us for like 2 years, you know, and finally like, they just got engaged. They have everything in line, like to where they're like, you know, finances, like she just graduated with her master's, has a job. He just got a new job. So it's like, they're in a position now where they're like, okay, cool. We can actually spend this money and take the time to go visit, you know? So they finally like booked they booked it probably in January, like before all this stuff went off, and they're supposed to come first week in July, you know? And it's like, I doubt that's going to happen. You know, it's just not worth it. Like, even if they still could, I think it's like, you know, take the chance, because that's like them staying with us for a week. And what are we going to do? Go to restaurants and bars? Probably not, you know, if they even open them as much by then.
They will. I think it's just going to be a matter of who can afford to run a business.
Yeah.
Because a lot of businesses are going to shut down. I think is going to be the scariest situation where we're not used to that. We're not used to an actual depression. We had a recession. This is probably going to lead to a depression. I mean, I know a lot of people are feeling the depression already in their house. I definitely am one of those people, my damn self. So it is.
Yeah, it's like, I was reading about that today, where it's like people are like, no, it's not a recession, it's a depression, and we haven't had anything bad like this since like the 30s. And it's really scary to put it like that. And it actually made me think about, because I'm seeing a lot of my friends, like comedy friends, that are posting online about how they're struggling mentally with a lot of this, because they're just kind of home alone by themselves. Like they're single, they live alone, you know, all that stuff. And I'm just like, oh damn, like this is tough for me too, but it's not as tough for me because I already do work from home, and like, and I, you know, I live with Travis and I have a dog. So it's like, I have people, and I have like an animal, and I have like, I'm not alone at all. And like, that's really lucky. And I think a big part about why I'm not really freaking out, even though I'm still stressed for sure, it's not as bad as if I was just like in my own head by myself. I'm out of fucking trash TV already.
That's my life. I'm living that other side of the spectrum. That is one of the things that I have been feeling, is the, you know, no girlfriend, no pet, nothing around really. Thankfully, I do have my parents relatively close. I can walk over there and see them, and, you know, keep our distance and hang out in the backyard.
Right.
You know, I think about like when you to live in New York and stuff like that. Could you imagine being in that situation right now, like cooped up in a tiny apartment and having, you know, the worst situation where everybody's so super infected there? So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of things to be grateful for about circumstance and situation when it comes to pondering your, you know, position in this all. But I I personally, I'm still wrestling with it. It's a day to day. I think everybody's going through it. You have certain days that feel better, certain days feel worse. I think
Yeah.
trying to stick to the exercise for me helps keep the endorphins running. That's why I made that
Yeah.
clear that I needed to do that before this podcast. I was like, I
Right.
gotta burn it out before I, lose my mind.
Yeah,
Sort of.
exactly. So like that's like what's helping you is sort of keeping up with that sort of stuff. Like is yeah. Like for me, like I haven't. I mean, I feel like I've barely been showering. Like, I'm like, you don't really have an excuse because you always work from home, you piece of shit. Like, why don't you just like take a shower? But it's like I'm a little depressed, and I'm like, and then today, like I was thinking about it, I'm like, I'm really lucky that it's not way worse, because like you said, like I've lived alone in New York, and it wasn't during some sort of quarantine thing, but it's like I was alone because maybe I just got out of a relationship or something, and it really hits you hard when you don't really have anybody, or like your routine gets ripped out from under you because you don't have the people around you that are, you're used to being around. Like when I got divorced out here, and all like my friend group was attached to the ex, like I was very like alone, and it was really sad, and I got really depressed. And just the fact that I have that, I'm like, all right, you need to get your shit together because it could be way worse. So like this morning, I'm like, okay, I did a little bit of yoga, then I took a fucking shower.
Yeah.
And then I put on like regular, I got jeans on right now and a shirt.
Nice. I got basketball shorts on.
But like I've been like schlubbily walking around the apartment in leggings or sweatpants and the robe, like my cushion robe. And I'm like, really? You're just gonna wear this all day? And like my hair is just like everywhere. I'm like, Jesus, you are a mess, and it's not okay. And so I already feel like 10,000 times better just putting on like human being clothes, even though I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, I'm wearing an outfit.
About a week ago, I had shaved my face and everything, and maybe a little bit longer than that. And it was the last time I saw a friend, and she was like, "Wait, you shaved your face, cut your hair?" And I was like, "Yeah, I feel like it's the only thing you really can do is like try to take care of yourself while you're here, stuck in quarantine. Like, try to make yourself feel good, But
yeah, because you see people on the videos, it's like, wow, everybody looks like shit. And I'm like, yes, finally, but I'm like, let me put on mascara. Maybe I'll like pretend I'm going somewhere today, that sort of thing. It does feel nice. Like I have found that like I tend to dress up or look nicer. Like even when I went to my show, like if I was just feeling really crappy, like would be the day that I wore like red lipstick and like dressed up. And it's like, why do you have to feel like garbage before you take care of yourself? It's like you waited 3 steps too long, Jess. Like maybe if you did it every day, like down to like, taking care of my hand, and like, so I'm not wearing the brace right now because I'm not using like the mouse or anything, but I've been wearing like this brace. Oh, do you not know about this? Well, no, I just like, I overworked myself to where I was like working all day for work. And then I was doing all these projects and like not taking breaks because I get into the zone. And next thing I know, it's 2 hours. Like you're supposed to stand up every fucking 20 minutes from the computer, and take a break. And it's not like standing up from the computer and then sitting on the damn balcony and smoking a cigarette. It's like now you're just sitting again and killing yourself with this smoke. So like I ended up with like a carpal tunnel tennis elbow thing in the right arm. And this was like starting to happen like right around the coronavirus stuff. And it was so funny because I was going to physical therapy and everybody's like, ha ha ha, not a big deal. Even though I had to sign this like coronavirus waiver when I got there. And then she's like in front of me, massaging my arm for an hour. And then like the next week, she's like, actually, it's canceled, because then that was when they were like, oh, just kidding, this is serious. And I'm like, why did I wait to a point where I'm wearing a brace now? Because they had me wear this like brace on my wrist so it would like take the pressure off and these little exercises. But now it's like I had to like force myself to just relax and be like, okay, I get it. You finished working for the day and now you want to like toy around with this app or you want to like design this thing. And it's like, well, maybe just take a break because you physically hurt yourself now. And now it's like my left arm is doing it too. So I'm like, what is happening? I'm not going to wear a brace on both fucking hands. No, I'm like, not like, what is this? Like, I know. So I'm just like, just forcing myself to like relax. I'm like, paint your nails, take a fucking bath with some like bath salts, watch a
Read a book.
movie, read a book, do some stretches, exactly. But it sucks that I usually have to wait till after it's kind of too late and I have to like regain strength back before I actually take that time, so.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are guilty of that same thing. I mean, you know me, I took forever to get off my ass, but it is what it is.
But hey, it works out, and I'm proud of you. I mean, like, you went and lost like a couple 100 pounds. I'm bad with weight. Was it that much? Like, you're like, no. Like, that is an entire human being, Jessica.
I did lose an entire human being, but a smaller one.
Yeah.
Like 117 pounds. Yeah.
That's like...
gained a little bit back, like 15, 20 pounds back, but in muscle form. So my body's still not looking like as bad, but
yeah, no, I mean, you look great. And it's amazing because it's one of those things that I have to imagine when you spend, a majority of your life, like struggling with weight, that you're like, this is just what I'm like. And there's nothing that I could do about it, but like you found the jujitsu community, which, how did you even get into that? Like, did you have a friend that knew about it? Or you just kind of...
So, me with podcasts, it's like everything. Podcasts have changed my life. I listen to all these different comics, different podcasts. And I was going to say that earlier, that none of them are working. They're all saying the same thing, not to do a stand-up show from home. Like, that's just ridiculous without having an audience there. That's the whole point of the whole art form. But I think ultimately, watching Rogan's podcast, getting into Jocko Willink, getting into a few other people, and just getting inspired to try and live a little bit more and try, that's the same concept of like what this podcast essentially is meant to be about, is discussing how you should be appreciative of what we've had. We've had some great, amazing times, and I was aware of it for sure. But now things are looking like we don't know what's going to happen. But in the interim, the number one thing you can do is try to take care of yourself so that you can stay healthy and stay productive and keep, ahead of the curve with your mind. And anybody who's feeling like depression issues or anything like that, social anxiety, or depravity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely feeling a lot of those different things myself, but thankfully I've got enough speed and gusto working in my direction, in my favor of, having the jiu-jitsu community and staying active and on top of it and staying on my own fitness and doing whatever you can in your own time. Right. Kettlebells, running, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever you can get to, just do something, get a little sweat.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely rough, especially because this is like one of the first times that, like normally you hear about these like crazy things, like these different viruses and these just bad things happening to like large amounts of people. And it doesn't really affect us as much. So we've become so complacent that like, oh, this is like a problem that you see online and the next week it'll be over and there will be a different problem. It's like nobody really took this seriously. And it's really going to show that it's like, oh, like this can happen to anybody and everybody. And like our whole life and livelihood has to be readjusted. And so I'm thinking like, this is a good time to pick up old projects that maybe you didn't have time for before, like finish writing that screenplay or that book. But it is also tough when you're like, oh, man, I'm so depressed. I kind of don't want to do anything,
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I can sympathize. I was feeling that way today, just doing the run, coming back, starting to do sit-ups and just being like, man, I just don't feel like doing it. You know what I mean? It's just like, God. But you got to try, whatever you can try. Any little bit that you can do is better than nothing. And you slowly, you take small steps and you build on them. Jordan Peterson's another person that I've enjoyed over the years watching on podcasts. And he's got that little thing, you want to change the world. You want to make something of yourself. It starts off by making your bed. Just make your bed.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how much that starts momentum, It's real on.
It's like showering in the morning, brushing your teeth. It's because I'm not like a morning shower person, like I don't like, I like to sleep in, but I'm like, I don't know about you, but when I wake up, like I've never been a morning person. And so like the fact that you like get up at 5:30 and do jujitsu is insane to me. But I've also, but also like I have had times in my life where I was kind of on a roll and I was up early doing stuff and it feels so much better when you've like done all that exercise stuff by 9 a.m., because it's like doing it after work is a lot harder because it's like you lost all your energy then. You're kind of like, oh, I'd love to have like a drink or something. So getting it out of the way in the morning is really great. But, I'm on this like thing where I'm up too late to where it's like would almost be detrimental to wake up too early because I'm like, well, now you're running on 4 hours of sleep. So not too good. So I'm just trying to take it in like little mini things where it's like, because I, have a yoga teacher training, like I got the certification and I used to do yoga 2 hours a day and I'd meditate and it was awesome. But, I have lost that routine for a couple of years now to where I've never really gotten back to that ever since I moved to LA. But like I've done it. And I'm getting better now that like I can't go to the gym, which also I was bad at doing, but I liked going to the gym because it's like, it's out of my own space. I'm not in like where I work and where I live and where everything happens in my apartment. The place I want to be like relaxed is not with the dog like bothering me, while I'm trying to do yoga or something. So like actually going out of my element and going to a new place where it's like all that shit's gone was really nice and helpful. And I started doing that and being good at that. But only I'd go to like the relaxing ones. Cause in my head, I was like, I want to get back to like doing these really intense classes, but I'm like, don't like overextend yourself to where you're like, I'm turned off now, So
Yeah.
I just, I'd try to do it like once or twice a week. I'd go there, and I try to like stretch every day at home a little bit. It doesn't always have to be an hour or 2 hours for you to be like, well, then I might as well just not do it at all, which is like my thing. Cause I always have like, I live in extremes. It's either like, don't do it or do it like the best possible. And I'm like, bitch, just fucking do it for 10 minutes, do it for 15 minutes, So like, that's what I did. Cause it's like, you don't get to go back to like yoga teacher level yoga right away. Like I already am not strong enough because I've already like fallen off so much. Like I'm out of shape, So just even doing that for 10 minutes a day, I was like, okay, if you could I could do something for 10 minutes a day. That's like just for myself, now that I have to essentially.
Yeah. And I also think it's different for us. I don't know to the extent that you're still working, but I'm, like I said, I'm working overtime daily, and it's not the same boat as a lot of these other people. Like I said, are losing their jobs, so they're in worse situations, but they're also, much more time on their hands as well. So that will drive you nuts, and anybody that's out there that's got time in their hands and lost their job, I highly recommend, get involved in grocery shopping, stores, anything that you can do to help the economy that actually is existing and does need help right now, does need all the help they can get involved in that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You can stock shelves or do whatever.
Yeah, I'm working like the regular amount because even though like there's still work to do and still stuff to do, a lot of the things that would cause me to work overtime, like deadlines, or like new business proposals, like which people aren't putting those out like from like the cities. So those are kind of off the table. And like the client work, like I'm basically caught up now on all the stuff that we were kind of behind on, because when you're trying to manage both like the company stuff and the client stuff, it's like, oh, the company stuff takes the back burner. But like now all of that's like kind of caught up and like they're not really responsive. So it's a little bit like, okay, now can get back to that back burner stuff, but that only takes so many hours of the day. And even still, I'm like, don't overwork because this hurts your hand. So I don't know. Did you get that pop up?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
I said love it. Well, because it says before, like you can have a 40-minute meeting if you have the free version, but it said unlimited one-on-one. So I don't know if maybe it was because there were two of you in it at once. It thought, I don't know, whatever. I think we have more time now, but if it cuts off, I'll call you back. Son of a bitch. I'm getting sick of these apps, but like, how good is it that I can do this? Thankfully it's like, it's free, even though it's not as good a quality and I don't have my videos. Like,
yeah, it's still cool to be able to get something done and still keep your, podcast going, keep your momentum, keep yourself preoccupied doing something that's productive, since you can't have your show anymore, with Landon, like you were saying. And it's everything's kind of up for grabs. Who the hell knows what's going to happen after this? You don't know when a restaurant or restaurant or bar is going to be open or able to make it through this.
Oh no, I just got a text from my sister-in-law that says, why is a nude on your story? Did I get hacked? All right, we're taking we have to go check this out. Is there a nude on my story?
I have no idea.
No, there isn't. Oh my God. Oh, fuck that bitch. It's April Fool's. God damn it. I was like, oh no. Cause sometimes like you accidentally like press something and next thing you know, it's like if like you go into Instagram to post something and then it like places the most recent photo in the box.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that happened, but I'm like, I haven't taken any nudes lately. I will murder you. Anyway, that was a close one, guys. That was a close one. No nudes on the story. It's April Fools. Are people really doing that? This is not the time to make jokes up. this shitty climate. Oh man. I'm thinking about like, it's like when you were talking about the other day about like taking things for granted and whatnot, it made me think a lot about just like people in your life that maybe you take things for granted before and then realize they're not there anymore. And I think that's like a really big thing with this, especially since a lot of people are dying. Cause like I think back to like you remember Jessie, and just like she would like I just remember we talked a lot, and she would always call me at like 3 a.m. when she was like drinking or partying with people, and I'd be like going to school the next day, so I was annoyed, and I'd be like, God, why is she always calling me and annoying me? She'd be like, I forget exactly what it was, but she'd call me and ask me to tell this like one specific joke to like a group of people, and I was like, I will murder you, because I'd be like asleep, you know. I'm like, don't make me tell jokes right now. And this is like well before I did comedy, you know. But yeah, I remember like just after she died thinking like, oh man, how much I would love to get that annoying 3 a.m. phone call right now, you know. Things like that are just like I know that I've been calling my grandma and texting my grandma a lot more right now, because I'm just like, what if she's like some shit pops off and she's not here? Like I don't want to have to look back at the time and say, oh, I shoulda, woulda, coulda done that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I totally get that. I think, you and I both have lost an extraordinary amount of human beings that have been close to us, as well as, in our bubble and circle, so to speak. And, that's always given me the perspective that I've had to appreciate things a little bit differently, and why this whole situation, although as funky and crazy and bewildering as it can be, is kind of something that I'm prepared for, so to speak. Like if we check out, I'm ready to go. At any time. Like, it's been a hell of a ride. And I've lost a lot of other friends that have died way before this point. So
yeah, but I still feel like although I do have that in the back of my head, so like just right away I've kind of started just like trying to reach out more and talk to people more, because I'm pretty bad at it. Like I'm very very like homebody introvert person that doesn't call people a lot. So I've been trying to do that more, but I still like kind of had to like have it re-jog my memory, because I was like, oh, you should know this, you shouldn't have already been taking things for granted, but you still do.
Yeah, I think we're kind of, this is the modern age. We're very driven to do a lot of things already, especially having parents that have raised us to do that, to strive for more.
Right.
You're a mom's control freak like my mom is, and no offense, Kim, but it is what it is. It's just one of those things that you're the offspring of that. So you're going to naturally have this drive to succeed. And so you already have that drive. So that means a lot of the other stuff that you have had in your past kind of falls to the wayside, by default, de facto, because you have a mission that you're on. And as long as you really have good bonds, like you have with Dina and myself and others, whenever, no matter how long the distance, it doesn't matter. We're always going to love you. So it's just the time doesn't really create any kind of animosity. And as long as you have those real bonds and friendships, I think you'll be fine with that. And it's totally understood, because we're on the same missions ourselves. We're all, we've known each other for 20 plus years, like you said, but we forked off in different directions.
Right.
Time and time again.
But those are such rare situations though, because like there's so many times that I think that like that should be the case with another person, and the next thing you know, it's like this person's pissed at me or thinks that I fucking hate them or something, and I'm like, no, I don't. Like this is just what I'm like, like I don't reach out, like I don't, I try to, but it's like I'm busy and I know you're busy. Like I'm not a person that usually holds that sort of animosity towards people if I don't hear from them. I don't have like that expectation. But I know that like me and Dina did have that for a while. Like where I kind of had to like readjust, not maybe my expectation, or what is this sound that I'm hearing? Do you hear that? Or it's just me? Okay, it's fine. I think it's better. Anyway, like I had to sort of readjust like my expectations of her, and she did too. And I don't know if it was like a love language thing where it's like, 'cause she's a person that sends cards, you know, like she'll send a card on your birthday, or she'll send a card for Valentine's Day or something. And I've never been one of those types of people. I'm like terrible at sending cards and gifts. Like my mom's birthday gift came a fucking month late, dude, because it was like sitting just on my dresser and I kept forgetting to send it, you know, but like it's not like personal, it's not against you, and maybe I should be better at it, but like that's not my style, you know. If anything, like I'll call you, you know. It's not, but I remember me and Dina
Yeah, don't feel bad.
Yeah, like me and
I don't
Dina
do presents.
yeah, we'd get in these fights though, because like, you know, she'd be like, oh, you know, you never call her, you never do this, like, and I'd be equally annoyed. I'd be like, you're the shitty one, you know? So we'd get in these fights about like who was shittiest, because like she sees me like with people doing stuff and she's like, you don't do that with me. And then I'd be like, you never do anything, you know? So we had this like different like mindset of how our friendship was supposed to go. And both of us felt like so wronged by the other. So we just like get in this stupid argument. And then like eventually, you know, a couple weeks would go by and I'd be like, all right, you know, I'm sorry. But like, luckily we've been friends since we were 12. So even though I'm like, you're selfish, you've always been selfish because you're an only child, you know, just like hitting her where it hurts. She's like, well, you're a bitch and all you care about is yourself. And I'm like, all right. But then we have to like go past it and be like, okay, but I love you though. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think like just in our older age, you know, I have to remember, I'm like, she has a kid and she's like dealing with that, you know. And I don't know what really happened or what changed, but just at some point we stopped doing that. We stopped fighting about everything. And it's like,
I think she probably realized that there's no point in doing it anyway. You know, you guys. I think what that is that's that teenage angst, and she's probably have a little more animosity because you guys are best friends and you're still so clicky when you are together.
Yeah.
But like whenever there's distance, it's like, why is there distance? I don't understand why there's distance. You're my one person that's not supposed to have that. But it's like,
right.
Bitch, we're living lives. You got a kid and a husband. Like, I'm not gonna live with you, and we're not gonna see each other every day like we did in high school, drinking fucking beers till the break of dawn.
Right.
It is what it is.
But it's funny like that, like jealousy stuff, like, because I see it and I'm like, you guys will be talking about something and I'm like, why they're always talking without me? Like, I'm like, when you were going through a rough time, years ago, and it's like Dina has all this information. I'm like, what? You just didn't tell me? I didn't even know. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? We're friends. We're really close friends. How did you not tell me? How come Dina knows and I don't know? You know? And I like felt left out. You know what I mean? But I think like what's been really fun and cool that we've done recently is like whenever I come down there, like we make it a point that all three of us get together and get to hang out. Like our dumbass is getting tattoos, which really all Dina's fault, really. You know, she brought that shit up. And then that liar. And then we're like, let's do it. And then we're trying to get a tattoo going, right? You and me are like, moon phase, moon. And she's like, like just one moon. And we're like, no, idiot. We both of us already have just one moon. And she's like, well, I'm not doing that. And so we're like arguing like siblings. And okay, let's get a margarita. And then all of a sudden, like, you're like, I don't know, this is a bad idea. I'm like, come on. And then like, she's like, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, and then both of us turn on her. We're like, no, this was your idea. And she's like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, bitch. Yes, it was. But yeah, now we all have a dumbass margarita on our leg. I love it though.
Me too. It's perfect.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with a margarita.
Hell no. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Mm.
Good times. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. We've had such longevity in our relationship. That's where you find, I find the true value of a friendship. You have people that are a lot more surface, closer friends that you see more often, but you don't have that depth, that longevity. And yeah, it's great that we have that. It's definitely awesome to see everybody become their own thing. Having Dina and her daughter, come up to me and be like, Uncle Steve is so crazy. It's a crazy thing, and for you to be out in the middle of LA and being a comedian and having a podcast and all
Yeah.
the shit that I love watching on a regular and I'm addicted
Yeah.
to. It's like, this is so cool.
Yeah. Which is awesome, and I appreciate that. Like, I love when like you'll you'll listen to something and you're like, dude, and like send me a text about it. Like, that feels really good that like people, just follow it and like it, and because it's like it's tough to like put things out there and then just like not have people get it or understand you. And I think that's like a big reason why I do any of this stuff is just like I've got a few creative outlets, but like one of the ones that's always been really great and necessary is like comedy. um Even if at different times in my life I know more what I want to do with it or not, it's like I have this outlet of things that I want to say and like things that I think are funny, and when people get it and laugh or like it or send you a message that they really like this podcast episode, it's like that means a lot, and it makes me feel like I'm on the right track and I'm doing something good. Like, even if I don't have like a, clear cut ultimate goal, like I don't know exactly what I want out of it. Like when people ask me that, they're like, what do you want out of this? Like, obviously it would be great to just like get paid and make money for it, but right now I'm just like, I just want it to be good.
Yeah, I think it's great as it is. I think being somebody. For me, podcasts have changed my life. Like I said, watching podcasts helped me propel my life into a whole new direction. Find jujitsu, find a community that I love, find a discipline that I have that's infected me into other aspects like reading and, focusing on getting back into music again and trying to do all these different things. But so I love podcasts and I love comedians. The fact that you're being a comedian and being, active in the podcast thing and sticking to it, just having the dedication to releasing it every week consistently on the same day. That's
Yeah.
so much discipline. I know how hard that is. It's an extreme challenge. So I commend you for doing that alone, but it's going to teach you a lot just in the journey. You don't necessarily need to have a direction, like, not to bring up Rogan a million times, but he's kind of like the fucking epitome of podcasts in this world, especially for me. And that guy, he started that thing on a whimsy, just talking, just having fun, just enjoying the ability to actually connect with people online. And, the fact that people want to listen, that's a blessing. That's a gift. Where you go from it and how you stick to your regiment is what creates the discipline. The more you become disciplined, the more it starts to, spill into everything in your life and you just become more successful.
Right.
So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. And it's tough for sure to do it like that, but it's like, it's such one of the few things. I mean, I guess I have discipline with other things, but I still never feel like, I kind of feel like I'm all over the place and I'm not like, you're not doing enough, So the fact like that, it's like one of the few things where I could visually see myself being consistent and then like looking back over time and saying, oh man, like me doing that show for 2 years now almost, which now it's on hiatus obviously, but it's like that's a long fucking time to do the same thing every week, and I'm like, wow. So you are consistent, you do stuff, which is not how I saw myself. Like I know that I work hard. I don't know where that disconnect comes from of feeling like I'm still not doing enough stuff, but maybe just like
because like I said, we're our own worst critics. We come from that, where we come from the upbringing of parents, specifically mothers that are like domineering, and you're like, okay, never gonna be good enough. Nothing's ever good enough. So you're always just like work.
Yeah, exactly. Damn mothers with their.
And I think I know that we both fucked off enough.
Yeah,
in our youth.
We fucked off way too much in our youth. Oh my god. Yeah, no.
So putting in the work in our 30s, I think, is kind of the right step.
We were just too, like, I can't even believe we made it out of there with all the shit that we did. Like,
how did I make it back here?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like, you made it out and now you're back, but like, at least you're not like back. Like, you're not like trying to like fold yourself back into your old ways. Like, you've essentially created a new life back in Florida. But yeah, is that something like, how much longer are you planning to be there?
Girl, after this whole situation, I've been thinking about going back to Colorado just because I'd like to have a house again and some space, a backyard. And if I'm going to move anywhere, I feel like Colorado's the place just because, again, you have the comic scene, you have the music scene. You have a real airport that goes internationally, and it's a good location in the middle of the country to get to and from places. Also, I just love the big sky. I got addicted to the mountains. I got addicted to going out and hiking in the outdoors and seeing stuff like, elk and moose and big horned sheep and all this crazy shit. You're like, what the fuck is this? Coming from Florida, we see gators and birds everywhere. We don't see anything really cool like that. Maybe in a manatee every now and then, but other than that, you're like, boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah. Well, it's also when you like grow up somewhere, you don't think any of this stuff is as cool. Like you're like, oh, this is like regular day to day. But no, like there's just the beauty in Colorado. No freaking contest. So flat ass Florida, ugh.
100%. And the weather, I love snow. I really enjoy seasons. I'm tired of this every day. It's like this. It's the same weather. However, this jiu-jitsu school I found is kind of it's a home for me. It's more than any church or school or anything else that I've ever been a part of. So it's going to be hard for me to actually leave, although I've been contemplating, like I said, since this whole scenario of getting out of here, just because I can train jiu-jitsu in other places. Colorado's got a lot of really good, gyms, but I don't know. My original goal when I got my blue belt here was to stick until I got my black belt here, so that I can then maybe eventually go opening a school under the same, affiliate in a different state, and then I can move wherever I want to live.
They have like the franchise thing you can do with that school?
You do it with any school. Essentially, you get your black belt. It's called your lineage. So you get your black belt under a certain, professor or a sensei, whatever the hell you want to call it. And they're getting their black belt under a certain person. And most of them all stem from one family, the Gracies. But my lineage is under Pablo Pavlovich, so Wagner is my direct professor. He went under Pablo Pavlovich. So I can get my school and have, my own school under my own name as an affiliate, being a black belt from VRMA, or I could talk to him about starting VRMA in another state if I wanted to. Thankfully, he's a friend of mine. You actually know him as well. Who? So Wagner Rocha, you went to Sunrise with him back in the day.
I don't know.
Billy's good friends with him.
Scumrise. Oh my God, what a trip that place was.
Yeah.
God, I remember like getting in trouble passing notes. Like Dina used to keep them all. I don't know what she did with those, but I remember like
probably still has them all.
Yeah, she always says stuff like that. But I remember getting blasted one time and like her sending me like a photo of one of the notes, and I couldn't believe my mouth. Like I'm like, this stupid fucking bitch, and I'm like, whoa. You are 12. Why are you so angry? And like, what did she do to you that she's such a stupid bitch? Like, what a little shit. But no, I don't remember. If I saw a picture of his face, I'd probably know who he was. I'm better with faces than names.
Yeah, it's all good. It doesn't matter. But I was just saying, he's from down here. My dad and his dad are good friends from racquetball for like 30 plus years. So I've known Wagner since we were like 15, 16 years old. We're the same age. And so it's kind of hilarious that I'm getting my black belt under him. But, like I said, I've found a home there, and it's really hard for me to want to leave in this middle of this process. I feel like I'm in kind of like a college of sorts.
Yeah.
So trying to get my degrees.
Yeah, well, you're not going anywhere anyway for a little bit, so I might as well enjoy it.
I don't think anybody's going any damn way. We're sitting indoors for a while.
Oh my God, I miss going to just like on a whim, like when Travis has a day off, like now he has a lot of time off, but it's like, we can't go, let's go to the ramen place that we love. Like, let's go to brunch and sit outside. It's because it's been so nice outside. And I'm like walking the dog, further and stuff, but I'm like, oh man, what I would love to just like go sit outside at a place, stuff my face and drink a mimosa. And I know that's like such a first world, take it for granted problem, but I'm like, but I miss that. And I never thought that would be a thing that we wouldn't get to do, or even seeing, like, I've been FaceTiming my friends a lot more that I normally would be seeing each week. And, I feel like that's kind of been a good thing. Just like talking to them outside of like the scenes and things. So I've never really been good in large groups as far as like, not that I'm bad in them, you know, obviously growing up, we always had a ton of people around and we partied and it was fun. But as far as like what I like the most and what I get out of relationships the most comes in like small groups, like 3 people going to dinner or, you know, hanging out, or like just one-on-one on the phone, like that sort of thing, which is kind of what I'm liking a lot with this podcast where it's going, is just like doing like more of a one-on-one thing. Yeah, it's just like I feel like you get closer to people that way. So it's like in this distance, I feel like I've definitely already started getting closer to certain people, and like it kind of teaches you too, like who is closest to you out of like all the people that maybe technically you would have put on a similar level of friendship. You know, these are the people that are sticking out and reaching out and seeing how you're doing and just calling you on a whim and whatever. It's like, oh, you know, it's kind of establishing like roles a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I've got to be a little bit better about that. I've definitely reached out to a handful of people, but I think it's important to reach out to people that you do care about, that maybe you don't think about as often, and what they're going through in this situation, because not everybody's dealing with it the same way. Like I said, everybody's affected differently. Some people are out of work. Some people are still working like crazy. Some people are,
Yeah.
dealing with family, or some people are alone. So it is very different for each individual person, but it is important to reach out and just at least make those connections that you can with people. And like you said, maybe this helps you filter out some of those people that you did have relationships with that you don't necessarily need to be having such intimate relationships with, or spend as
Right.
much time focused on.
Right, exactly. Like spending time focused on, it's like, well, you know, where are you when shit pops off? Like people that always are people that are always there asking you for stuff, and then like the moment it just becomes like you can't offer them anything anymore, you know? Like I don't have
Yeah.
I don't have a show that I can get you on anymore right now. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, besides like your comedy shows, what do you think you've taken for granted the most? I mean, you didn't take that for granted. That's part of your work. So,
yeah.
what do you think out of this whole thing that you feel like you've taken for granted the most?
I just feel like it's so many things that I'm not really sure. Like I'm thinking, one, I definitely took, and this is gonna sound dumb, but like my gym membership for granted, which my company pays for because they like to pay for like, you know, stuff that's better for your health and all of that. And it's like that's like a fancy ass gym membership that I could have been doing way more often and way more times a week that now I can't do at all. So I'm like, oh, maybe you would have been like, maybe you would have had a 6-pack by now if you just if you just
Miller Lite.
yeah, if you just did your fucking, well, I don't know, man. I got a pretty good metabolism. I think I could drink Miller Lite and have a 6-pack if I went to the gym 4 times a week instead of like
You could. I
instead of
remember it
like
in high school.
yeah,
That rock solid.
rock solid. Yeah, Steve, punch me in my stomach. You can't fuck with this rock solid. Who was I? Who do I think I am? Still.
Oh my god.
Oh man. But yeah, like that, like definitely just so many nights of like where, you know, me and Travis like were like, oh, let's go do something, let's go somewhere. And I'm like, let's just like order in. Let's just be lazy. I'm like, you know, there could have been a lot more things like that. Um, yeah, just like so many things of like plans to go on trips and stuff, but those are not necessarily taken for granted things. It's just like really putting things off because I'm thinking, oh, there's plenty of time to do this, you know, like outside of my show. I definitely like had a goal this year that I wanted to, like, cause I like wrote down all my goals at the beginning of the year and sort of said like, here's things I want to accomplish. Here's like super high level goals that are probably like insane and unreachable in a year. Here's like very small level things, you know, like, you know, finally clean out the closet or whatever, you know, so that I could actually like check things off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because if you only put like really tough ones on your to-do list, like you're gonna feel real disappointed when you do like a quarter of one by March. So I definitely put like little stupid shit like that, like, you know.
That's like a daily to do.
Right. No, but when you have so many,
I'm just teasing.
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like when you have so many things like that, like, you know, it's nice to be able to check them off. So I think about it and I'm like, you know, things like we've been like, oh, we haven't been to the beach in a while, we should do that. You know, it's been kind of cold the first part of the year, but little things like that. Like, and one of the goals that I had was I wanted to, because I know that I have at least 30 minutes of material, probably more, but I just want to like actually refine it and tighten it and then record it. So I have like that, because I'm like, if I don't have like an end goal, then I kind of feel a little lost with my direction, you know, and not necessarily like make yourself famous goal, but like a tangible, visible goal, you know? So that whole, like, I'm going to like go to more mics this year because I haven't been going as much, which I was okay with because I still had mine and it was keeping me in the routine. And like, if I was booked on a show that, you know, then I'd do a couple that week to start sort of like tighten up. But mostly I was like feeling like I really do want to have like a little bit of a direction. So I build on this material that I have that I'm already getting sick of, put it in a package, and then move on to the next set of stuff, you know? So that was something that I had a goal for this year. And I kind of slacked off on it a little in the beginning of the year. And so now it's like, oh, that goal is like by the wayside now, because really you physically can't do that till at least maybe May or June. And so that's already half the year gone that I could have been tightening this shit up, you know? And other like projects like that, like, just like things that I want to film, things that I want to finish writing, that I'm like, you know, don't assume that you have all this time because it'll go away really fast. Like, even, yeah, all sorts of things like that. Mostly it's like productivity stuff. Also
That makes sense.
took my health for granted, overextended it. Now I'm broken.
Oh, your hands. Well, that's because you've been working too damn hard, but that's
Yeah.
okay then.
Yeah.
You know, at least you've been productive. I'd like that. I like hearing this. It's better than us being like, I wish I would have been getting drunk all the time and not doing certain shit. Like, we've both been grinding a little bit too hard lately, and this is kind of like a welcome break, I feel. It's like, hey, maybe we can pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, enjoy some of those nice days that have been outside that you were talking about. We've been having great weather too. It's like, wow, it's nice outside. Get some sun.
Yeah, it's like my dog, like I'm so overworked that, like, you know, and it's probably sounds shitty, but I'm just like, I'm annoyed when I have to take him out because I'm like, oh, I'm busy, I've got stuff to do. And it's like, but I've got this like cute little guy that like just like wants to play and like hang out, you know? And so I'm like, yeah, I should really like take you for much longer walks, you know? And like, so a lot of the time I was like, because I'm like, you know, I'm really busy and I'm on a deadline. I'm like, I'm gonna get a wag walk, which is like so not frugal, but like they made it like $15, and I was like, yes, like wag walks, like somebody will come walk your dog. They'll take him for like a 30-minute walk. So I'm like, you know, sending him out to like get like a really, really long walk, which I'm like, I don't have time for that shit right now. And I know you're gonna be restless. Like, if I just like take you up and down the street real quick and then bring you back inside when you know, you're a dog, you want to run around. And so like I was doing that a lot, but like those people, like, I don't think that WAG is still a thing. Maybe it is, but I also am like, I'm not going to go bring in like a person in to my apartment, touching my fucking dog and stuff right now. so now I'm just like, oh, you know, what are you like in a rush for? Like, just fucking take a break. Like, walk the dog, like enjoy the walk. Like, don't be like in this like computer constantly. Like, you have no like, no wonder you're tense. No wonder you're like physically in pain. It's like, I'm just not like stopping long enough to like smell the roses, so to speak. And, you know, just like enjoy it. Like, it's fucking nice out. This dog is bored. Walk him around the fucking block a couple times. And like, that's a thing that I'm like, oh, that's a thing that I should continue to do way more often. And I know I did it more before, like when I didn't have like 17 million projects, you know, going on. That, yeah, I kind of stopped just like exercising myself and the dog as much, you know, and just like little ways that will show up.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's part of the lesson throughout all this is slow down, pay attention to yourself, enjoy life a little bit more, stop being so much caught up in the rat race because fuck, who knows when it's going to end. At the end of the day, the lights might go out tomorrow. I'm hoping that doesn't happen because that's like the next step. The water stops working. We've been having water issues down here for months now.
Really?
Fort Lauderdale's been having main leaks break after main leaks after break since like December. But since there's been no employment downtown, they have stopped breaking because, over 5 million people have stopped coming into town daily. So it's like an insane amount of, over 5 million gallons per day are less being used. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Well, that's actually good.
It is. So it actually helps the situation. But, I think that's one of those things where we don't think about our footprint. We don't think about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We just kind of like have our heads down and we're working straight forward with things. And I think this is a good time for us to take a step back, take a breath of fresh air, and like figure out where the hell we really want to go with our time. And I think, I don't really want to change anything that I'm doing other than perhaps like where I live, because it'd be nice to have a yard again.
Yeah.
And I would enjoy if the lights did go out to be able to have enough property where I can grow some food and maybe have some animals to like live off of.
Yeah.
But, I'm not really necessarily sure that that's the best way to look at this whole situation. I think it's good to be near my family, who obviously, if anything happens right now, God forbid, at least I got to see them before anything, final.
Is that like what you're saying? Like what else are you thinking you've taken for granted that you're kind of acknowledging and knowing now?
Oh, I think I ultimately have been running around with my own mindset. Very selfish. I'm a very selfish person because I only have myself to consider ultimately. And maybe stop being as selfish. Maybe start getting more ingrained in the culture or the environment that I want. I ultimately would love to have a couple of things accomplished in my life, and maybe I need to focus on doing those before time disappears or I stay too focused on one project. Maybe I need to kind of stop going to jiu-jitsu 4 or 5 days a week and being only worried about jiu-jitsu, and maybe start putting more time into some volunteer work that I would like to do, or maybe at least get music back in my life a little bit more often, because it's good to have creativity going.
Well, that's the thing. Are you playing music more? Because that's something that I feel like in this environment would be a great way to get back into it. And just given all the tools that we have now, like even doing this like podcast over Zoom or whatever, like there's so many opportunities for you to start like having goals related to that, if you're even interested in that anymore. I don't know, but
musically it's been a challenge for me because I live in a condo. So
you play the drums and the saxophone. Nobody wants way to pick two loud instruments, Steve. Jeez.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of fucked in that situation, but it is what it is. You just try to be mindful of the environment that you want to harbor, and I don't want people making loud, rambunctious noises, so I don't make the loud, rambunctious noises. But again, like I said, I think they have my parents right nearby, so I can go set up my drums in their garage from time to time, and maybe make some noise with my brother on guitar. We can have some fun. I was thinking about that today, and I think that is what I'm going to try and do moving forward, is maybe set that up more often, or maybe even leave my drums over there so it's easy for me to just bring them out when it's time to play, and then I don't have to worry about moving them back and forth.
Well, that's a whole thing that I think is really important too, and just like this sort of stuff is like, because that's already a daunting task in itself. I think absolutely leave your drum set up over there, because then all you have to do, it's like turnkey. You just walk over and do it. Like normally I had like all my yoga stuff like all tightened up in a corner, and it's like it's a whole to do to set it all out, or like pull it out from under the couch or whatever. And so now it's just like kind of folded up in the corner so it's not in the way, but it's like all I got to do is like pull, I don't have to like go unroll it, go dig it out from under the bed. And it's like that already in itself has like increased my productivity in that way, like tripled, just because it's easy to get to. Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to focus on. Like I said, it's not my house, so I can't just leave it set up, but I could at least have it there broken down, maybe stashed away in the garage or something, and pull it out when it's time to play, which I could make at least once or twice a week. I mean, once or twice a month, so feasible. And I think that those are goals that I think I need to try and focus on trying to bring to fruition. So we'll see. But yeah, maybe taking for granted, there's some more pondering to that needs to be done, because I can think of probably a multiple of things. I would love to have an animal, a pet. I think might happen after all this.
Would you get a cat or a dog?
No, I think I would get a dog because I've had cats my whole life, but I don't want to have that kind of pet. Just like I don't know, I
You'd have
I
to get a
don't know, I
really
don't know.
sweet one.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I love cats. I love all animals. I just always have wanted a dog. I've never had one, and I feel like I've neglected that. And it's like that's another thing. It's like if I'm, life is short. Why the fuck wouldn't you have a dog before you don't
and
have the
and
ability to
because
take care of them?
like you're already active, now, like you're so much more active going out with, like, even remember when you were, I forget where it was, when you lived in Tennessee or Colorado or maybe both, but like you would go hiking and stuff, all that. And it's like having a dog does sort of help get you out, because it forces you to walk, and it forces you to sort of build things around the dog, like you could do all sorts of shit like that is outside of jujitsu, but still exercise. And it's like your companion, things like that, which you can't really do that with a cat. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no with the litter boxes, no with the litter boxes.
Yeah, know what the litter box is. Exactly. That's a big thing for me. It's like if I've had cats my whole life. Thankfully, they've always been outdoor cats that we've
Yeah.
had that
Yeah,
are
same.
always
Mostly mine.
around.
Yeah, mine were like that too. And it's, yeah, you can't, not with a
Yeah.
condo probably. I mean, maybe you could, but you still have that fence and shit.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could have an outdoor cat around here, but I don't think he would feel too welcome because there's not a lot of place for him to chill. I mean, he could
Yeah.
chill by the pool, but I think they'd probably get pissed off about that. But
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care. Fuck
Whoa.
everybody.
Whoa, Steve.
That's some HOA shit right there.
Yeah.
You're like,
Oh
fuck
my
off.
God. I
Leave
just
me
can't even
alone.
imagine people like buying houses or condos to begin with. I'm like, oh man. Like,
Oh, it's a fucking thing. It's a real thing. But I mean, what it ultimately comes down to is the price of rentals are so expensive now.
yeah.
The market has gotten to such an extreme that every year it was going up and going up and going up. And I was like, look, it's going to be cheaper for me to just have a fixed mortgage and maintain that property. At least I know what my mortgage payment is going to be on a fixed rate income.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm definitely gonna um definitely would love if we could, like we've talked about, like saving money, like we're gonna buy a house eventually, but it's like nowhere near, we're like about 10 years out from that, probably just like saving up the money in general.
Yeah.
But like I wish so badly that in LA, like the mortgage was like way cheaper than the rent, but it's not. But I know that, like, because I still have my eyes, like it's almost like that manifesting thing. I still have my eyes on, like I'll look at like the Zillow thing, or I'll like look at, like I'll set my whatever apartment finder or whatever finder app to like high, like bigger window, like so not just in what I can afford, just so I can kind of like envision and see, like, oh, like if you go up $500, there's stuff that's like a little bit more expensive but like way better for what you can get. And just kind of getting my head around, like, this is how much it'll cost you to be able to do this thing that you really want. Because I would love to have a house. I'd love to have an apartment that, or just an apartment that like is a little more private. Like even your condo, I think, is like pretty private for, you got your like fence and things. And like, but like my walls are so damn thin. I'm like, if I'm on the balcony, it's like 1 foot away from my neighbor's balcony, and she's always on the balcony and her kid's always screaming. And I'm just like, I want to move already, because this kid is just like either yelling happy or yelling mad, and I'm like, this thing never shuts the fuck up. And I'm like, if I could just like live in an apartment where like I didn't have to see you, like maybe every once in a while I'd hear it, but it's like first thing in the morning, ah! And I'm like, Jesus, this is
You are not meant to have children, my dear.
oh, I know. Tell me about it. Like I've been waiting for that like pivot. No,
I stood far.
I don't want to. Oh my God. But
Yeah.
my neighbor's hilarious though with her daughter, because she's just like talks to her like a human. And I thought this thing was much older. She's 3. And but like they like are pretty mobile that young. Like this thing is running around, and it's like not, but she's like, I was like, how old is she? She's like 6. She's like, no, she's 3. She's like, oh my God, if she couldn't talk this, like if she talked this poorly at 6, I would have killed myself by now. She says that. And so she's pretty funny, like to the point where like if the kid's being annoying, like the kid comes out and she's like, where's doggy, where's doggy, where's doggy, and I'm like, shut up, like, like what? And then the mom's like, the mom's like, stop, you're going to make her never want children. Please go back inside. So she's like pretty cool about, like, she knows her kid's annoying. She gets it away from me. But I'm also like, I'm nice to the kid, you know, but obviously, like, I'm not interested. Like, I'm not like sitting there like, hey, hello, like, let's be friends. Like, I don't give a shit what you're talking about. And you're right, you know, like, you don't make any sense. Like, one of the best things is when, like, Dina's kid turned like 5 and, like, she actually made sense. I was like, thank God. Because I was, was like, for the 4 years prior, I was like, something's wrong with this thing. Like, this does not make any sense. But that's because I just don't have a gauge of children and when they're supposed to start making sense. And I'm like, how long can I sit here and pretend to give a shit for this thing that selfishly has no self-awareness, did not interrupted my conversation, and it's just like not making sense. I'm like, I don't know what to do. But now, like, now that she can like talk and she's funny, you know, I'm like, oh, finally, like, I can actually like communicate with this human being, you know.
Treated like my grandfather. Children are supposed to be seen, not heard.
Yeah. that's what I feel like, until they at least start somewhat making sense, you know, like until I could actually talk to them. Still kind of annoyed after like an hour. I'm like, that's about what I could take. But
oh, I hear you. My nephews are very similar. One of them is like super hyperactive, and he's just like always bouncing around. We're sitting here like chilling, having conversations, drinking beers, shooting the shit as a family, and this kid just can't sit still. He's bouncing the ball, throwing it. And you're just like, would you fucking sit the fuck down before I ring your neck?
Oh my God. Like, I don't know how people do it. Like, kids are so, I'm annoyed by my dog. And all he needs,
all he does is sit there.
Except for 3 times a day he wants to go outside. And maybe like I always have his food full, but every once in a while his food will be empty and he'll just look at me and be like, bah, bah. And like he'll like look at his food and I'm just like, oh my God, you're so annoying. What do you want now? So like I could never have a child. Forget it. I'm sorry, Lewis. I love you. But Jesus.
I love it. Oh, it's so
funny. All right. I don't know how long we've been talking, but maybe we should wrap it up. What do you think, Steve?
Sounds about good, my dear.
All right. Well, it's been great talking to you and just going among like what recap. Don't take things for granted, because we're learning the hard way now that we shouldn't do that. But also, Jess will never have kids and Steve needs to get a dog. So let's see see how that
works
goes.
for me.
Oh man. All right. I love you. Text me, call me. I'll talk to you later. And thanks guys for listening. I'll be back next week. I don't know. Yes, it's Tuesday. It's every Tuesday. I think I'm going to release this one earlier, maybe not. We'll decide.
All right. Love you too.
Love you. Bye.